Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Essence Presents Production YouTube channel. This is our monthly content marketing Q&A live stream. So, just so you know, I'm going to be doing this every single month, and I would love for all of you, if you watch my videos, to just leave your comments or leave your questions in the comments of the videos or send me an email. I've gotten a really good question this month. I'm still working with kind of not too many questions. So I'm really just using this time to talk through some things that I wish I knew back when I was starting in content marketing. So, especially as a business owner doing a creative thing, creative product based business, or just creative business in general. So, I hope that these little sessions really help you out. And again, it's going to be so much more valuable to you if you drop your questions in my YouTube video comments throughout the month, and then I can answer them live here. All right, so let's get into the first question that I got asked this month. And it was, how do you balance talking about yourself and talking about the value to customers? I've heard conflicting advice that nobody cares about you and they only care about themselves. So here's what I would say to that question. Basically, if you are a product based business, right, it's going to look a little different than if you are a personal brand and you are in front of the camera and you offer something as a service through your expertise. There's really, I would say, in general, like two types of businesses. Either you're selling a product or you are selling a service. And if you are selling a service, it actually is a little bit more beneficial to showcase yourself and talk about yourself. But when I say talk about yourself, I mean talking with intention, right? We don't want to be offering a service that is, say, like content strategy and be talking about often like our hobbies and how we love to dance or play pickleball. You know what I mean? Though there's a time and place for that. And of course, as a service-based business, you are the person in front of the brand and you are representing your brand. So you are encouraged to showcase your personality in really low touch ways, meaning like maybe in your stories, maybe when you show behind the scenes stuff, but there should be this overarching kind of purpose for everything you share. As a product based business, it's actually less important to be talking about yourself, although it is not totally out of the picture, I believe. I believe that if you are a product based business, you want to touch on yourself when you are doing highlights about your story and where you've come from and things like that. So it's a bit different for both, but as a personal brand, as you're part of the business as you're offering, it's more important to actually talk about yourself, where you've come from, but with intention, right? How is this serving? Ask questions like, how is this piece of content going to serve my audience in any way, shape, or form? And if you're finding that you're not seeing how it's going to serve them, then maybe it's not necessary to publish. And then, of course, as the product based business, if you at least do kind of personal talking about yourself moments when you're talking about the story of the business as a whole, in that context, that is when I think that that could be that perfect balance. So I hope that that question helped you out. Thank you for that comment. All right, let's move on. So here's another comment that I received over the month via email. I feel like my content is all over the place. And this person said just some other details about their business. So, how do I create a brand aesthetic and voice that makes my business stand out? So, this is really all about clarity at the baseline, at the foundation, right? If you feel like your content is all over the place, I would look to your business and the business foundation. Like, are you clear? This is a question to ask. are you super clear about the transformation that you offer to somebody, right? Because content can easily be seen as information, and that's really its main purpose, is to give and provide information, whether it's about you, whether it's about a topic for educational purposes, or it's like testimonial content. All of it is more information about you, about the brand, about what you do. So if you start to feel like your content is all over the place, then what that says to me is that there's not really a North Star. There's not like a specific transformation that you offer that allows the rest of the fluff to like part ways and like just not even pay attention to the fluff. Because if we know exactly what we do, exactly what we serve and who we serve, what we do in that whole process of serving that audience, your content is going to feel much more clear when you come up with ideas, because you're going to realize that who you're serving with this piece of content is actually not what you offer as a transformation in moments, right? If you're just coming up with content ideas and they're kind of randomly put together, that is not going to be speaking to your transformation as a business. So that is what I would say to that. In terms of your content feeling all over the place, look to your foundations, like your business foundations. Do you have a clear offer? Do you have a clear transformation? Speak on that whole process of the transformation that you offer, and your content is going to feel connected, even if it is talking about all aspects, right? At least you can see your North Star in content that talks about the transformation versus not going off of the transformation and just going off of random content. That is what I would say to that. So thank you so much, Anna, for that email and that question. Okay, so now let's talk through kind of some common questions that are asked about content marketing in general and how I would go about answering them. So I've been posting regularly, but my follower count has been stuck for months. What is a simple tweak that I can make to start growing again? So I've been posting regularly, but my follower count has been stuck for months. So I would want to be curious, or I would be curious about knowing how much content you're posting and if the content you're posting is actually valuable to the people who are seeing it. That is a very common thing that a lot of people go through, but it is still talking about this transformation statement, right? This transformation that we as owners need to be cognizant of, like what is the transformation because that you offer, because when you are posting regularly and not seeing growth, it means that you're talking to the wrong audience. And if you're talking to the wrong audience, then it means that you're not clear on who you serve. So a simple tweak that can allow you to start growing again, in my opinion, would be something along the lines of getting way more clear on who it is that you serve, because these are the people who are going to follow you. People can only follow you. And if you're speaking to the wrong people, that's probably why you're stuck. So that is what I would say to that. Next question. I see people doing limited time offers and launches. How can I use content marketing to build hype before I sell something? So, what my brain immediately goes to here is email. I think that email is one of those places that's like really untapped in terms of how people launch. So, people typically think like launching something on social is big, launching something to your personal clients is big. But when you think about the utility for that, email is kind of your best medium, because if people are on your email list from a free resource, they want to know, and they're probably going to be curious about what else that you offer, even if it's paid. And if somebody doesn't unsubscribe from your email after you've already given them the free resource, it means that they got value from it and they will probably be open to hearing more about what you do. So, the way I would build hype through email is I would actually come up with a cadence for sending out emails. And in that cadence, I would make the first email kind of like just gauging interest. And as you send more towards the launch, but don't be spammy, right? Like, don't go over the top to where people feel like you're doing too much. And I would actually recommend something like one per week in the beginning and leading up to maybe like one every 2 days. I do see some people do like multiple emails in one day when they're like on launch day, which is not a bad thing. I think it really just depends on your community and if that is an expectation that you are kind of living up to in a sense. So, the way I would build hype is by doing like little emails like once a week, making it a little bit more common, maybe like 2 per week or 3 per week. And then once it gets closer to your launch, sending an email a day until like you're counting down to like the day. And this would have to be super strategic with copywriting. Obviously, in the beginning, you don't want to like be speaking to them as if like they're they're about to be enrolled. In the first emails, you want to really give them all the value up front, like what exactly will you get out of this? And maybe every day focusing on one aspect of that. And then as you get closer, really talking about the transformation that is going to be present in their lives. So even like giving them a storyline and saying, you want this to be your reality, kind of like situating your copy around that. That is actually what I would recommend to build hype through content marketing. Okay, we only have like three-ish left. I want to make more videos, but I hate editing. What's the easiest way to create engaging reels without spending hours? Okay. So for me, I focus on YouTube and I don't really focus on Instagram anymore, only because I do find that there's a lot of time that needs to go into curating reels for Instagram, um, and connecting with your audience there would only happen after you've grown an audience. And if your audience is super kind of like not engaged with you, then sometimes it can feel like a waste of time. And that's what I don't want for this person who is wanting kind of an easier way to create engaging reels. So, what I actually do recommend, and this is kind of like my method, is creating one long piece of content. Like, it can really be one long form piece of content a month, or you could do up to like 3 or 4 pieces of content a month that are long form. So, that's like one blog per week kind of thing. Um, that's what I would recommend for people who are just starting, just so you can get used to kind of that rhythm and if that is even for you. But I would start by making that blog content the kind of like the content that you're going to talk about every single week. So if you put out your blog on Mondays, throughout the week, Monday to Friday, your short form content should be talking about the pieces in that long form content and even driving people to that long form content, because number one, that is driving people to your website. Hopefully this is living on your website. And number two, this is the easiest way to build kind of a content marketing strategy, is by really putting in a lot of effort to a long form piece and then divvying it out to then bring people back to that long form piece, but always speaking on the little aspects of those blogs because they're super important, right? Like, you did all that work, you don't want it to go in vain. But a lot of people, I think, forget that you can create little pieces of content, especially if you outline it properly in your long form. piece of content that can literally allow you to just kind of live off of this one piece of content for the whole week, for the whole month. It really just depends on what your goals are. So let's bring it back. I hate editing. What is the easiest way to create engaging reels without spending hours? So, if it were me, and this would be the easiest way in my head, and this is actually something I've done, I would definitely invest in Descript, which is a editing, video editing AI kind of new platform. And what you can do is upload your long form piece of content that you create. Maybe it's like a talking head video. Hopefully, it's something like that so that you can constantly make these snippets out of this long form piece of content that have you in it. And it's super engaging because it's a person's face, right? That's another thing that does really well on social platforms is people always do well on platforms because when somebody sees somebody's face, they want to know what they're talking about. It's just kind of a more of an unconscious thing that I've found in my 5 years. So, as long as you're on the screen, you will get engagement. Um, and the easiest way to do this is to split up your long form piece of content into little snippets that are speaking on a specific topic. Now, this might mean that you might have to build out a very strategic long form piece of content that allows you to have kind of like little sound bites throughout that are talking on specific points. And that comes with kind of just like your planning and your kind of editing phase where you want to stitch things together, but it should all be cohesive and each snippet should have like its own kind of purpose and really speak to something that's much larger. And that is what I would do. And one of the other easiest ways to just publish these little snippets that you create that you don't really need to have like high level editing on, because like if you've already edited the long form piece of content, it's already edited, right? So if it's already edited and you're just going in to create snippets, you don't really have to do much editing. And so what you can do is just take the AI title that it creates for that very snippet and throw it into Repurpose IO. It's Repurpose IO. It's actually a publishing platform where all it does is it connects your Google Drive. So, say you store your videos that you created in Google Drive with Descript, right? You create videos in Descript, you download them all, you put them into the Google Drive. It's like a long list of videos, like little snippet videos. And depending on the cadence that you define, Repurpose will just upload your content based on your parameters that you define. So, say you want to do like two a day, like two snippets a day onto YouTube Shorts, it will do that. You just have to set it. So, that is the easiest way that I would bring in more kind of engagement into your video content. Um, it's basically like editing free pretty much because there's the element of Descript that does not you don't really need to edit, and that's what's amazing because it's AI and it allows you to just keep putting out that video content. Okay. I hope that answered it. Okay. Okay, next question. I keep seeing people talking about Pinterest for marketing. How do I know if it's worth my time and how do I use it efficiently or effectively? So, Pinterest to me at this point, I've kind of considered it more on like the back end of my process, only because it is a search engine and that's how I treat YouTube in terms of short form content. And because Pinterest is geared more towards short form content, I would say that it should be more of like a thing that's running in the background. And to use it effectively, though, I would always be linking your website or your piece of content that the short form piece is coming from, right? We just talked about that. But like your short form piece of content should really be on Pinterest as well as YouTube, because these are search engines. And in Pinterest, instead of doing the kind of repurpose IO thing where it's like way more automated, you don't really have the ability to link anything in each of these posts. I would do this in something like Later, like a scheduling tool, and I would schedule this out and the link the website to your short form piece of content that you put into Later. So that is how I would do that. It really does take time to allow this to be worth your time, and it's not always going to be evident in the first kind of, I guess, months, because it takes a while for your content to kind of show up into Pinterest and show up into search engines. So that is what I would say for that. That is really my only question on SEO and visibility hacks. But I see that we have a question here. Hello. Um, how can companies synchronize demand forecasting, programmatic ad buying, and blockchain driven transparency to enhance ROI while minimizing the impact of ad fraud and digital saturation? So, this feels a little bit out of my scope of what I would know how to do. So, synchronized demand forecasting. I honestly don't even know what that is, to be honest. If you could give a little bit of clarity on that. I really focus on organic content marketing. So it's really more about like, instead of being just a content creator, how can we actually get ROI, which you did mention, with content, but in a more organic way? I've actually never really experimented with ads. Um, and let's see, you said digital saturation. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. I'm so sorry, because I don't know a lot about demand forecasting, programmatic ad buying, and blockchain at all. I'm so sorry. If you had any type of question on like organic content marketing, I would be happy to answer that for you. Okay, so I might just get back into my other questions that I have here. Um, okay, so these are a bit more about time management and content systems. So hopefully that helps you, Bill. If it does, I hope. Um, okay, so I get stuck staring at a blank screen when trying to write posts. Do you have a go-to content creation process that save time? That saves time? Yes, I do. What I would actually recommend for you if you have trouble coming up with ideas is good old Google search. So that is my number one way that I come up with content ideas. There's also a tool that I use called Answer the Public. And what you can do is type in the keyword that you're wanting to create a content piece about. So that could be, for me, it would be like content marketing, content creation, photography, videography, graphic design, copywriting, right? Like that's the scope of what I'm going to be talking about with my long form pieces of content. And so what I would do is go into Google. And if you have a more specific idea for the piece of content that you want to write, whether it's like, okay, you want to write about, in my case, copywriting, but maybe using AI to write copy, that's a more specific search query. I would actually type that into Google and then go to the section where it says people also searched and look at those questions, because those questions are what people are searching for. And that's like the most low hanging fruit way to get your ideas going. Another tool on the same screen that you can use in Google is scrolling all the way down to the bottom of the first page, and you'll see either recent searches or other searches. And they're kind of in these blocks. They look like little rectangular blocks. those are also going to be related to your search. And those are also a great area for content ideas. So that is what I would recommend on Google search. If you want to do something that's more SEO driven, I would go into Answer the Public. I think it's answerthepublic.com and type in your keywords. If you type in more specific keywords, I have found with that it's not as effective in coming up with ideas, because sometimes I don't know what it really is, to be honest, but if I typed in AI copywriting, that's about as specific as I think Answer the Public is going to be valuable as a tool for this. Because if you get any more specific, it might not come up with results. And I think you only get a certain amount of searches a day on Answer the Public. So I would recommend going a little bit more broad versus the Google search way. You can always go specific because it's tapped into Google, right? Like, and a lot of people can search for more specific things on there, whether you find a YouTube video that has like a very similar, you find YouTube videos that help you come up with ideas for it. That's something that also happens when you do Google search. So you see YouTube search results in there as well. So that is my go-to content creation process, content ideation process. Another thing that you can do, this is a little hack that I've recently done, is if, say, you have already created a long form piece of content, throw that long form piece of content into AI and say, please give me inspired ideas from this long form piece of content for other content ideas based on what people search on in Google. Or you could say based on what my audience, and then outline who your audience is, searches for. I don't think that ChatGPT is really, I don't think ChatGPT is really heavily into like SEO and things like that yet. So I don't know if it's really going to give you the highest quality stuff, but for me at least, it gives me at least a general direction. And that, of course, I find valuable. Okay, so I'm coming up on my last question. So let's see. Okay, I always forget to post consistently. What's an easy system I can use to stay on track without feeling overwhelmed? Okay, so this is kind of giving way into kind of my method and how I produce content, and the whole process. And basically, what this is it takes a full month into accountability. And instead of cramming in creation, planning, publishing, editing all into every single week of the month, I actually do each of these steps. There's 4 steps in each week of a month, and I give myself a week to do each step. So, for instance, what it looks like is this: I do planning 1 week, I do creating 1 week, the next week I do editing, and the next week I do publishing. Because when you think about it, those are the 4 main areas of producing content. And if you try to cram all of those basically stages into 1 week, I find that it is way less motivating to create content because there's a lot involved. And so this way, you're separating out your stages into each week of the month. And that allows you to really just focus on one stage of your piece of content for a whole week. And that actually makes it more high quality by default. So if you are somebody who forgets to post consistently, I recommend first and foremost gettinglater.com. It's a publishing platform, and this is only for short form content. If it comes to long form content where you're forgetting to post consistently, this is more of a foundational issue in your time management, because long form pieces of content are going to take a long time. And that's the reason why I separated out over a month. But If you're looking to just be consistent with social, which typically people are, I recommend a scheduling tool. And it's really great that in this video, I already talked about kind of the snippet creation, like the easiest way to create short form pieces of content out of your already high quality long form piece of content. So what you can do there is, if you're not into repurpose IO, you want to add more of a caption and make it more curated, I would get later.com. It is definitely by far my favorite scheduling tool for social platforms. And through Later, you can post shorts, you can post on Twitter, you can post on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Pinterest, you can even link out to your website. So that's why I love it, because it gives you all of the abilities that I would say it gives close to all the abilities that it would take if you did these on each platform. So that is my best advice. The system that was the part of your question, the easiest system to stay on track without feeling overwhelmed, that was my plan, create, edit, publish system, right? That's like 1 month. You do all of your creation in 1 week, all of your planning in 1 week, all of your editing, and all of your publishing in 1 week. That gives you really 1 week a month where you are actively creating. And that is why it works so well, because you already planned for a whole week. So you have just a really solid idea on what you're going to be talking about. And then creation becomes way easier because you already did that for a full week. Now creation is going to be a breeze because it's basically just repeating what you've already planned for. And then you get 2 weeks, 2 full weeks to schedule, publish, create thumbnails, create the summaries, um, and do all of that in 1 week, the editing, and then publishing, which editing and publishing to me can go kind of together. But that's another reason why it's so beneficial, because you get 2 full weeks to do that. So that is my content marketing Q&A session for March. I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. And if you did, please give me a like. Drop your other comments drop your questions in this video if you'd like to be featured on next month's content marketing Q&A. That will be live on April 26th. It is another Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to be there for the live session itself, I invite you to do that, or you can just drop your questions in the comments of any of my videos. I will track them down and answer them in the live. All right. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.